Hello, everyone. I'm Sarah Colmus here with American Offshore Wind Academy, the academy that connects you to the top experts in the offshore wind industry for your professional development and networking. And one of the services that we offer here is a podcast with those experts to get you a little bit closer to what's happening in the industry in little quick sound bites, 10 minutes. So here today, I'm happy to welcome Sean Murphy. Thank you very much, Sean, for joining us today.
Thanks, Sarah.
So Sean, you're coming to us from ABL Group, and you work with something that not many people know a lot about, marine warranty. So do you mind giving us a small introduction on what marine warranty is? What are they doing to help offshore wind be successful?
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me. So, yeah, my name is Sean Murphy. I work as a Renewables Manager with ABL based in Boston. So specifically within the renewables business, I focus on exactly what you said, marine warranty surveying. And yeah, it's often a bit of an obscure role that people know exists, but they don't know what it is sometimes, or what we do, what role we play. So yeah, we're looking to give a bit of an overview on that. And I think I'd say, going back, I mean, MWS stemmed out of the oil and gas industry. So in the early 70s, around that time frame, as oil and gas projects got more complex, basically there were risks that just the standard procedure that was being followed and the usual industry regulators and stakeholders that were involved weren't sufficient to manage. So the insurance industry came together and they established this role called the marine warranty surveyor. And basically they said, we'll insure these projects. These are very complex operations. We acknowledge that. Just the usual routine kind of management of vessel condition and things like that aren't cutting it. So we need to create some kind of additional oversight from a third party to manage these risks. So as part of these insurance policies that were insuring these operations, they created that role. And MWS is a third party instructed by the insurance company. So our scope of work is based on their standard scope of work and their code of practice, and we are contracted to usually the developer or the transport, whoever is actually taking out the insurance, the assurance as they call them. So whoever's taking out that insurance policy, we're contracted to them. We're paid by them, but we're actually working as basically boots on the ground for the insurer.
Excellent.
So yeah, but I mean, it started in oil and gas, stemmed, carried through. These are complex operations in the offshore wind industry. So it's very much the same kind of remit. We're just there to manage risk. That's part of that insurance.
Yeah, risk is definitely very important to keep track of, especially in offshore wind for any project, but certainly in this new budding industry and one where the ocean tends to make its own decisions sometimes. Can you tell me a little bit more, about the players that you end up interacting with on a daily basis when you're and what exactly you're doing in your day-to-day?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, our scope of work is very broad. I mean, it's focused on the marine operations. So the word's right there in the title, MWS Marine Surveyor. So we're not focused on the onshore. We might be focused on moving components when they're coming from overseas on a ship or something like that. But the actual construction and like install of a land based part of the project is generally outside of our scope. So we're focused on those marine operations for an offshore wind farm. It's the foundations, it's the wind turbines, it's the cables. It's the offshore substations. Those are kind of the big meat of the packages that we help get involved in. So, as I mentioned, we're kind of an outside entity. We're supposed to be independent, completely from the actual, project stakeholders. So it's generally we get involved, after contracts are signed, the project's kind of got a plan to get implemented. We get involved, and we're working with the developer. So basically, we're kind of interacting through them and their project team, and then we're reviewing and approving the operations of whoever they have subcontracted with for the installation, the transport and installation of specific operations. So we're focused on that operation. It might be an installation of a wind turbine, foundation, cable, whatever it might be. And then we're focusing on, okay, what vessels are being used, what equipment's being used, who's involved, how are they planning, an appropriate and suitable procedure to get this operation done. And we're there to kind of specifically focus in on what the risks are around this operation and help reduce them to a reasonable level. We're not eliminating risk. We wouldn't be there if risk was gone. So, I mean, these are complex operations, and that's the point. It's okay. What's the risk, and how can we mitigate it as best as we can? And when and if things go wrong, how do we work and have a contingency plan to get things back on track?
Excellent. Okay, yeah, so you're really working in on helping those contingency plans, because I imagine a lot of companies don't normally go to the level of which you would within MWS.
Well, I think they should, but I think we're there to kind of help be a part of that conversation. We, often I think the marine warranty companies that are around, they're generally big established companies. They have a lot of experience working when marine warranty is the front end, right? We're trying to prevent incidents from happening. A lot of these companies also get involved when things do go wrong. So we have that track record. We see things go wrong, and we can kind of take that knowledge base and help apply it to the front end here to hopefully help things go right. So we bring that perspective that I think not all the stakeholders involved in the project have. They probably have processes and instances that they can bring to the table. But we bring that extra perspective from different projects and industries to the table that try to things go as smoothly as possible. So we're part of that conversation.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. You're sort of the central little hub between between oil and gas, between offshore wind, between this country, between that country, etc. A lot of history behind it.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds very useful person to have in your corner when you're building a wind farm. Out of curiosity, where, generally speaking, do you tend to see the most contingency plans needing to be put into action?
It's a good question. You can't plan for everything. So I mean, you gotta. I mean, especially where we sit, we're there to kind of raise the flags and say, okay, what if? We're asking the what ifs. Contractors might not like hearing what ifs, but we want to just raise them and see what your plan is. So I think a lot of the risk around offshore wind stems around cables, just because they're, in terms of the operation, they're, I think, one of the more complex, and they're very sensitive. They have certain handling requirements. So that's where a lot of the risk is. That's where a lot of the claims are. So I think around subsea cables and what your plan is there is a big focus. But generally, I think whether it's a cable, a foundation, blade, when things go significantly wrong, it's not, these aren't items you can just call up, an OEM and say, hey, just ship us another one. These are things that have, months or years in terms of lead time. The factory isn't just going to stop production on another project to give you another foundation or whatever it might be. So it's those types of plans. It's okay. What is the plan? How can we mitigate, if a claim does occur, what the plan is. If it's just a single blade, that's kind of a unique thing, right? Because a blade is one of three. They're all balanced. How do we actually, what can we do to right the ship back and bring the project back online to the original course? And it's those kinds of things. The lead times, the big project, the big project components, and how you work with the supply chain on those.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think that highlights very much the importance of marine warranty, for sure, being that stakeholder that's pushing for these kinds of things, because you can lose a lot of money for sure by not paying attention to items like this. So then what are the biggest challenges that you see for marine warranty coming up?
I don't think that the risk has changed. Like the projects are different, right? Offshore wind, oil and gas. If you're moving project cargo, whatever it might be, the risks are different, but they're still there. I think the importance of the role is still there. So I mean the risks are, yeah, it's a lot of the same kind of role we've played since the beginning. They're complex projects that you know it's you can't copy and paste the same method statement from one to the other. You're working in different regions with different mid-ocean conditions. You're working with new faces. There's a lot of different equipment that we're working with. Components are getting bigger, and the vessels are getting bigger. Everything is just slightly different. You know, it looks maybe a little bit the same, but it's just either at a bigger scale or at a different location. And then floating brings a whole nother array of challenges. You're looking at a much different operation than what we've seen before, either in oil and gas or offshore wind. So it's yeah, I think it's taking a step back just to figuring out what the risks are with floating. It's a lot of, you know, it's a different type of risk from fixed. Might look a little bit similar, but you have more of you have that serial production type nature of the operation. But you know, you're working with floating. It's very more, you know, it's complex. It's a bit more transferable almost from oil and gas platforms and things like that. So yeah, the risk I don't think has changed. Our role is to keep asking those what if questions. You know, be a part of the conversation when you're trying to grapple with those what if questions and what your plans are. I think we you know, always different players do it different ways, but our intention is to be you know, productive part of the conversation. We're not just poking holes in plans. We're there to help manage the risk because you know, I think inevitably it's better to jump ahead, get the risk managed earlier than have an incident happen and then you're dealing with that. It's yeah, so it's kind of part of that process.
Yeah. Absolutely. And yeah, it seems from what it looks like in the news that the turbine providers are not going to be scaling up as heavily or quickly anymore. But for sure, like you said, floating, that's a new one that's going to bring a whole host of interesting engineering challenges. So for any
Yeah,
engineers listening out there, you have a lot of work cut out for you for floating, for subsea
yeah,
cables, for foundation. So,
it's good
um,
fun.
yeah.
There's a way to do it, you know.
Absolutely. Well, Sean, thank you to you and all the other MWS people out there that are being the silent superheroes behind keeping the offshore wind industry afloat. Yeah, thank you very much for your insights today. And I guess we will see each other very soon. You have a course coming up very soon in May, if anyone is interested in hearing a little bit more in depth about marine warranty surveying. All right, Sean.